Hello. Welcome. Today we're bringing back one of your favorite series, comparing various games on the Yuzu and Ryujinx emulators. And to make this video even more comprehensive, we'll be testing practically all exclusive games with unlocked FPS to obtain the best possible results. We'll also analyze the results of low performance, represented by the low 1%, which indicates the lowest performance obtained during the tests. To make it easier for the viewer to understand, we'll be using the average FPS metric, which means the average FPS obtained up to that moment in the test. Before we proceed with the tests, I'd like to ask for your support by giving a like and subscribing to our channel so that we can continue to bring quality content. It took us over a week between capturing and editing these tests, and we downloaded over 500 gigabytes of games, in addition to those already in our library. If you want to support our project even more, you can become a YouTube or Patreon member. Before we begin, I would like to clarify that in all tests, I will provide information on which emulator performed better on my PC. If I do not make any notes, it means that both emulators worked perfectly fine. Additionally, to avoid making the video too long, I will only comment on games that I consider important in relation to relevant information, such as the need for a specific API or issues during the game's execution. Recently, both emulators have had significant performance improvements. I made a video comparing the before and after of both emulators, and I'll leave the link in the cards for those who want to delve deeper into the changes made and the results obtained. With that said, let's begin. Animal Crossing New Horizons works well on both emulators, but there are noticeable differences. In Ryujinx, despite presenting problems with reflections, the game performs better compared to Yuzu. ARMS has experienced a regression in Ryujinx, which should be fixed soon. Currently, the game can only be run using OpenGL, which results in several stutters during shader compilation. Although Bayonetta 3 can still be played on both emulators, performance on Yuzu has regressed. The game is experiencing crashes at various stages, and FPS is very unstable. For those who opt for Ryujinx, the frame rate will be higher, but cutscenes may experience audio delays. If you want to know more details about the game, I recorded a video with additional information, which I'll make available in the cards. Unfortunately, Bowser's Fury also suffered a regression in Ryujinx. Now, the game can only be played in OpenGL, as if it's opened with Vulkan, it will crash after a few seconds. The game Captain Toad Treasure Tracker also experienced a regression in Ryujinx. During the background gameplay, it is noticeable that the FPS was not unlocked when using OpenGL in the emulator. The latest game in the Fire Emblem franchise, Fire Emblem Engage, was one of the games that gave me the most trouble to get it running on Yuzu. To make the game run correctly, it's necessary to use the GPU in normal mode and change the API to OpenGL. If Vulkan is used, there may be several crashes during dialog boxes. Additionally, it's important to mention that Yuzu experiences long freezes when attacking with a character for the first time, which can affect the gameplay experience. I understand that this franchise is very dear to players, so if you want a special video about this game, leave your comments below. Fire Emblem Three Houses also presents the same issue when using Yuzu as Fire Emblem Engage, so if you haven't watched the previous section in this same video, I recommend doing so to properly configure this game.
I will prevail. See what you're made of.
Kirby and the Forgotten Land also suffered a regression on Ryujinx. The game has issues when run on Vulkan and when using OpenGL. Shader compilation is long and time-consuming. Kirby Star Allies has a problem on Ryujinx that makes it unplayable. Even if you configure only one controller, as soon as you obtain the second character, the emulator assigns that character to a second player, making progression impossible. Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle is not playable on Yuzu using the Vulkan API, and when using the OpenGL API, the game has performance issues, as can be observed in the gameplay in the background. The second game in the Mario Rabbids series released for Nintendo Switch presents issues when executed on Yuzu with the Vulkan API, requiring the use of OpenGL to avoid crashes. However, when using OpenGL, lighting and shadows may present some problems and become distorted during gameplay. Mario Strikers Battle League runs very well on both emulators, but to make it run on Yuzu, you need a mod to skip the introduction video. Metroid Prime Remastered is a game that I have thoroughly analyzed, and I will make a video available on the card or in the description. Although Ryujinx has a higher frame rate than Yuzu, Yuzu is more stable and has fewer performance issues when changing areas. Therefore, my recommendation is to use Yuzu to play the game. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 is a game for which I often receive requests to make an in-depth video, but unfortunately the news is not good. I was unable to get it to run in any way on Ryujinx and, on Yuzu, it only worked in portable mode with the GPU configured to normal mode. If I try to use any other configuration, the game is not rendered correctly and the frame rate drops drastically. Recently, I created a deep analysis video on Pokemon Scarlet/Violet, which you can check out in the card or description. For those interested in playing this game on Yuzu, I suggest using the normal GPU option to avoid possible vertex explosions. Currently, this game only runs on Yuzu with the OpenGL API. Additionally, just like on Ryujinx, it's not possible to unlock the frame rate by changing the API to OpenGL. Until recently, Splatoon 2 was working perfectly on both emulators. However, with some regressions, now both present issues. On Yuzu, the game runs better, especially with the Vulkan API. The lighting is not rendered correctly, resulting in a darker tone. On the other hand, on Ryujinx, the game only works with the OpenGL API and presents many stutters when loading new shaders. Unfortunately, Splatoon 3 still has issues on both emulators. Currently, neither emulator can run the game using the Vulkan API. Although the gameplay on Ryujinx with the OpenGL API is enjoyable, on Yuzu all lighting effects are completely broken. Super Mario 3D World crashes if you use the Vulkan API on the Ryujinx emulator.
Is that Lenny? He looks worried.
At the moment, Yoshi's Crafted World is experiencing many problems on Yuzu. Unfortunately, the game suffers from random crashes and elements not rendering correctly, which affects the gameplay. Although I know many people are eager to play The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, I would like to highlight that currently using a Nintendo Switch emulator is not the best option to play it. Recently, I published a video where I evaluate the performance of emulators and compare their versions, and I recommend watching it before making a decision based on this information.